Okay, hi everyone. What an amazing turnout. I asked Ricky how many people are going to be here. She's like, I don't know, could be none, could be 30, could be 300. So here we are. We're somewhere right in between. Full house. I'm really, really happy to be here with all of you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Yaffa Palti. For those of you who do know me, I'm still Yaffa Palti. And I think this is my first time speaking here in this community. I just had the pleasure and the honor of meeting the Rebbitzin. And all of you beautiful, lovely women who are here with us tonight, thank you so much for coming out. I know it's Sunday night, not easy, all the crying and the kvetching, and that's just from the husbands, right? And yet here you are, because you want to be inspired, because you want to come together as a community, as Jewish sisters, learn and grow and connect, and that's why we're here tonight. Just a tiny little introduction about me, so you can get to know me a little bit before we move on. And if we have time, there's so much I want to cover tonight. It's a fascinating topic. I think it's something that's relatable to all of us, right? When Hashem says no. I think we can all have our own personal stories and experiences, and I have so much to talk about, but I am going to have to be conscientious of the time, so we'll talk a little bit. Maybe I'll share some of my stories as we go on. But meanwhile, I was an Ashkenazi girl, grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Anybody here from New York? Woo! Figured I'm not alone over here. And I married a Sephardic guy from Mexico. Okay? It was weird. It was a weird match. Theoretically, we really had nothing in common. And I don't know, my shidduch resume said I am a balas chesed, and he needed a green card. So here we are. Okay? And now it's been, as of this week, it's been 26 years. Baruch Hashem. Yes, I'm married 26 years. So is he. Believe it or not. Right? Yeah, I mean, I'm happily married. He's not, but I am. I'm kidding. He's not either. And because, I grew up Ashkenaz, he grew up Sephardic, on Shabbos, we kind of come together. We have gefilte fish tacos. He's from Mexico, right? Don't try it. Do not try it. And, we kind of created a life together. We found things in common. Honestly, I don't have time for this story today, but I didn't know his name until our fifth date. I know, that's crazy, right? I'll tell you the truth. He has a weird name. He has a weird name. Again, I'm Ashkenazi from New York. I grew up, I was dating guys, Moshe Friedman, Chaim Schwartz. My husband's a Sephardic guy from Mexico. His name is Yaffa Palti. So my friend who set us up, long story, how she met him, I'm not sure what his name is. I think it's like Nissan, Paltiel. Nobody was sure. When you hear the name Yaffa Palti, sounds like an item on a Japanese food menu. It's like a sushi roll, right? So we weren't sure his name until the fifth date, and I finally looked at him and I said, in the shidduch world, the fifth date means you're almost there, right? So I looked at him like, this is getting somewhere. This is getting serious. This guy might sign my mortgage papers one day. I think I need to know what his name is. So I said to him, you have a very interesting name. How do you spell it? And he took out his pen and a napkin and he wrote it down. And I was like, that's his name. And I memorized it. And here we are. So enough about me. Let's talk about you. So did everyone have a good childhood? We're going to jump right in. Yeah, you did good. Baruch Hashem. Happy to hear that. All right, let's talk about when Hashem says no. Now, this is a question, as I mentioned, that many of us could relate to. And the truth is, many times throughout Tanakh and throughout the Torah, we're told that if we reach out to Hashem, He's going to answer us. It doesn't say He might answer us. It doesn't say He's going to give us the answer we want. It says He's going to answer us. And yet, when we learn the stories of our avos and imos and different characters throughout the Tanakh, we actually see many times where Hashem does not seem to have given the response that these people wanted. And Hashem actually told people no. Hashem said no to Avram. Hashem said no to Moshe. Hashem said no to Daniel, to Yonah, to Eov, to Eliyahu Hanavi. Hashem said no to all of these people. So by the way, you're in good company, okay? You're not the only ones who seem to have been told no. But the question really is, if Hashem is really this all-loving God and a God all-powerful, all the fancy words, omnipotent, omniscient, we don't know what those words mean, but we know that they describe Hashem as being the all-powerful and the almighty God. So if that's really the case, and if Hashem is really in charge and in control of everything, then why is He not giving us what we want? Why are we sometimes asking for things and He's not giving us those things that we want? Now here's the thing. We don't know yet. We'll get there soon, okay? But the first thing I want to say is, it's okay to ask. We're allowed to ask why. I went to visit my great uncle a few years ago. Unfortunately, now he passed away, but he was the last in my family of Holocaust survivors to have survived. He's my grandmother's brother. And honestly, when my grandmother was alive, we never knew her story. She didn't speak. Some survivors spoke, right? And some didn't. My grandfather, we knew his whole story. Whatever he shared, my grandmother, we didn't know anything. And there were some loopholes in her story that we just couldn't place and figure out. And a few years ago, I was living in San Diego, California. That's part of my journey. I lived in many places. I grew up in New York, as I mentioned, but we lived in Eretz Israel after we got married. We lived in Mexico 11 years. I'll get to that story soon. We lived in San Diego, California for 3 years, and then we moved here about 5 years ago. So when I was living in San Diego, my great uncle was living in Newport Beach, which was like an hour and a half away from me. So I wanted to go visit him and see, talk to him, see how he's doing. And I got so many of my question marks filled in. He was able to help with a lot of the storyline that we didn't know. So that was really, really nice. But while we were there, we were talking. This was how many years after the Holocaust? 70, whatever years after. This was a long time. And as he's sharing the stories with me, he couldn't stop crying. He was still living it in that moment. And he looked at me and he said to me, he said he did not grow up a religious man. He always believed in Hashem, but he didn't keep Torah and mitzvahs growing up. And he looked at me and he said, I know we're not allowed to ask why. I know we're not allowed to ask why, but I feel like I keep needing to ask why, but I know we can't ask. I know we can't ask. He said that to me like 10 times. And I stopped him and I said, Uncle Harry, well, before he died, he asked us to call him Chaim, even though my whole life he was Uncle Harry. So we'll call him Uncle Chaim. I said, Uncle Chaim, you're allowed to ask why. Of course you could ask why. We can't guarantee that there'll be an answer for you. We don't know why Hashem does the things he does or why he doesn't do the things he does, but we could ask why. And I saw a little bit of relief on him. For 70 years, he was holding in the why, the question. I said, you could ask, it's okay. In fact, who was the very first person that we know of to ask why? The first person to ask Hashem the famous age-old question, why do bad things happen to good people? Anyone know who the very first person was? Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu himself, the holiest of the holies. He asked Hashem, he said, Hashem, I don't understand. I don't understand. Why are bad things happening to good people? And you know what Hashem said to him? Sorry, I can't answer you. It's okay, you can ask, but I can't answer you because if I answered you, you wouldn't understand how I run my world. I run the world in the way it needs to be run, and you wouldn't understand it. I can't explain it to you. Which, by the way, is a little bit of a relief. I'm so happy Hashem runs the world and not me, right? I don't know what I would do. Hashem knows what he's doing. So number one, Hashem said to Moshe, you could ask, but I might not be able to answer the question for you. Okay? So number one, it's okay to ask. And number two, I'm going to take it a step further. Not only is it okay to ask, but do you know that by asking the question, sometimes we're a little bit ashamed to ask why? Because we think, like my great uncle thought, we think that we're supposed to just accept. This is the life Hashem gave me. I can't ask about it. It's apikarsos. I'm going against God. I can't ask, right? Here's the thing, and we're embarrassed to say that sometimes we do question Hashem's actions. I want you to understand, ladies, that when we ask Hashem, why did this happen? Why do bad things happen to good people? Not only does it not imply that we don't have emunah and bitachon, but it actually implies that we have a strong level of emunah and bitachon, of faith in Hashem, of trust in Hashem. Why is that? Because if we didn't believe that Hashem actually runs the world and that Hashem is in charge of everything, then we would think the world is just arbitrary. So of course, anything could happen to anyone. So there'd be no question. We'd be like, well, too bad, right? Life is a lottery. You throw it up, whoever it lands on. It's arbitrary. That is a lack of emunah bitachon, when you're not bothered. But when you're bothered, you say, but why? Why me? Why them? That shows that we believe that Hashem runs the world and that he is 100% just. And we feel that justice wasn't done over here. I deserve to have this and I don't. If Hashem is 100% just, why don't I have it? Does that make sense? So asking why actually proves that we do have a deep level of emunah and bitachon. So let's understand that. But still, knowing that, Okay, we know that, and that's great, and that's encouraging. But we're still very frustrated when the answer is no. It's still very frustrating. This is something that I want so badly in my life. Why is Hashem telling me no? And people say to me sometimes, "Ay, life is so hard." And I say to them, compared to what? Compared to what? How's life supposed to be? And of course I validate them, but I want them to understand that mindset for a minute. We think life is hard because we're expecting it to be something else. What is life actually supposed to be? And especially now, we're in Elul, we're heading towards Rosh Hashanah, and we're asking Hashem, what's our main request? To be written in the Book of Life. Right? This is the best-selling book this time of year. The Book of Life. Everybody wants a copy. Everybody wants to be in it. The Book of Life. So we're asking Hashem for life, and he says, sure, I'll give you life. But then we complain about the life. We say, no, this isn't how I wanted it. I didn't want life like this. I wanted life, and I wanted it the way I want it, right? So we want life, and then we're unhappy with the life, and then we complain about life. So let's understand, what is life? What is it that we're asking for? Do we even understand what we're asking for when we're asking Hashem to write us down in the Book of Life? So let's talk for a minute about the words Rosh Hashanah. What does Rosh Hashanah mean? The head of the year. Rosh means the head. Hashanah means the year. But I want you to look at the word Hashanah for a minute and recognize that there is another word rooted in the word Shana also. And that is the word Shinoi. What does Shinoi mean? Change. Rosh Hashanah means something else. 1 minute. It doesn't only mean the head of the year. It also means Rosh Shinoi. That is the time where we change our heads. Okay, 1 minute. Are we getting head transplants next week, everybody? What does this mean? Or, I always think maybe it means a time for a new wig, right? Rosh Hashanah time, right? Rosh Hashanah, you got to change your head. What does that mean, to change your head? So obviously, we're not talking about your physical head, right? We're talking about a mindset. Rosh Hashanah, how do we want to start this year? Am I going to come into this year with the same mindset that I had last year? It might need a little bit of a change. It might need a little bit, of something different, a little bit of a shift in my mindset. Have I been looking at life a little negatively? Have I been experiencing life a little bit as a victim? Have I been judging people negatively? Have I been judging myself negatively? Have I been a little impatient with people in my life? Have I looked at the world black instead of white? How has my relationship with Hashem been? Have I been judging Hashem? Have I been angry? What was my mindset in last year? Let me stop and think for a minute and say, maybe my mindset needs a shift for the upcoming year. And that's Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Shinoi. How am I going to flip that mindset for this year? So let's talk a little bit about that mindset. What is life? Let's go back to that question. What is life, first of all, and what is the purpose of life? Why are we here, and why are we asking for more of it? So I'm going to quote to you something from Rav Dessler, okay? And this is what he says. Ha'avar, which means the past, rak zichronot. The past is only memories. Then he says, ha'atid tikvot dimyonot. The future is illusions. It's just imagination, it's illusions, hopes, anticipation, and illusions, fantasies. That's the future. Hehoveh, he says about the present, right? The present, he says, hu chayecha, it's your life, v'chulo rak nisyonot. The present is your life, and it is only what's nisyonot? Challenges. I see there's a lot of Hebrew speakers here. And the present, that's all about challenges. That's fascinating if you think about it. He's explaining what life is. He talks about the past, the present, and the future of Dessler. So he says, the past is just memories. I did this, I was that. It's memories, it's gone. It's not a reality right now, right? It's all in the past. The future, tikvot dimyonot, they're all illusions. As we said, they're fantasies, they're imaginations of I will become, I will be, I will do, I will have. That's the future. But the present, he says, this is your life. It's all challenges. And here's the thing, whoever told you that life is about sitting on the beach in a hammock, drinking a martini, they did you a tremendous disservice. That isn't what life is all about. That isn't the purpose of life. That isn't the mission of life. That isn't the goal of life. We were not created to just sit on the beach and soak in the sun. Can we do that as part of life? Of course. We're supposed to be enjoying all the things that Hashem created this world. He created this world for our pleasure and enjoyment. But it's not the purpose of why we are here. There's something much deeper than that. Life was created to challenge us, to help us grow. The comfort zone is very comforting. The comfort zone is great. We love being in the comfort zone. But there's no growth that happens in the comfort zone. And it gets very boring in the comfort zone. And then we start making decisions that aren't the healthiest decisions or the best decisions because we're in that comfort zone and we're not growing and we're here for growth. That is what we're here for, to face challenges and strengthen ourselves through them, to recognize our power of who we are. In fact, we're taught, Adam la'amal yulad. A man was born, a human being was born to work, to put in effort, to do things. We were created for effort, to fight, to struggle. To fight for what? To fight for my greatness, to fight for your greatness, to fight between good and evil. That's what we're here for. Right? We always have that struggle. Can't give in. We're here for greatness. And we're going to fight for our greatness. That is the point of life. That is what we're here for. So we can't expect life to be a party. That's number one. Perspective, mindset. What are my expectations from life? Am I expecting life to be a party? I know we live in Miami. It's party city. But life is not about being all rosy all the time. So first, let's develop a healthy, realistic expectation for what life is. That's number one. Okay, once we understand what life is, that makes it a lot easier for us to live in it and to function and to grow through it. Understanding it was created for challenges. Now here's the thing. Challenges come in two colors. Challenges come sweet and they come bitter. They're both challenges. Whether they come tasting sweetly or tasting bitter, they're challenges. Now that in itself is a critical mindset reframing. Understanding that idea, because it's not that things are good or bad. All of our challenges are good because they're all here to help us grow and to push us to become our best selves. That's what they're here for. And sometimes I don't even like using the terminology best self. You know why? Because what do you think? What's the first thing you think of when you hear, this is for me to be my best self? Whoa, that's a little overwhelming. That's a little intimidating. My best self, that's like, whoa, how many levels to climb up? So eventually the goal is to be our best self. But each challenge is not there to help us become our best self. It's there to help us become our next self. Just the next version of me. Right? Just one step. Stretch out of my comfort zone just a tiny little bit. So every challenge, we have to understand, it's not good or bad. It's not that one is better or one is worse. They're either sweet or they're bitter, but they're all good. That's how we need to understand. And that's, by the way, what is the greeting that we give each other this time of year? Shana Tova Mituka or Misuka, whatever your accent is. Same word, same blessing, right? Same. What are we saying when we say that? Why can't we just say Shana Tova? Have a good year. Why do we add in umituka? What does umituka mean? Sweet. It should be sweet. Why? Because Shana Tova, of course you're going to have a good year. If Hashem is giving you that year, of course it's going to be good. But we're saying, but it should also be sweet. All of the challenges that you have this year should be sweet challenges and not bitter challenges. They're all good. But of course we'd rather they be sweet. Now, let's give an example of what I mean by this. Because sometimes the challenge of the sweet, we think, that's the best challenge. Sometimes it can actually be more difficult than a challenge that's bitter. And I'll tell you what I mean. Because we have to define difficult. What does that mean? Let's take the example of having wealth versus being in poverty. Which one is sweet? Which one is bitter? Being wealthy is sweet, and living in poverty, or not, we don't even have to be that extreme, but not having everything we need would be bitter. But here's the thing, this is what we need to understand. We know that the challenge of poverty is more bitter, but which is a greater challenge? Which is a greater challenge? Which is harder to overcome? Which circumstance is easier to achieve greatness? Through the challenge of wealth or through the challenge of poverty? Because here's the thing. We all think, we know money doesn't make me happy, but I'll take the challenge. I'll let you know if money brings happiness, okay? So we know that. We say, money doesn't bring happiness, but I'd rather, cry in a yacht than in a downtrodden apartment, right? All alone by myself. So we know that. But let's understand what the challenge of wealth is. Because when a person does have a lot of wealth, when a person gets that blessing of wealth, things come along with that wealth. People say, winning the lottery is a blessing and a curse. Most people who win the lottery end up blowing all their money and being much worse off after than they were before. Sometimes wealth can come along with arrogance, and you can lose a lot of friendships and a lot of relationships because of that arrogance. Wealth can come along with thinking, oh, this is all man-made, this is all me, right? I did all this, I'm great, I'm amazing, I'm better than everyone around me. It can come with feeling like I deserved everything and to have this and to have that, and if I don't have it, I'm angry and bitter, resentful. It's very challenging to be wealthy. And being wealthy sometimes can make it harder for us to achieve our main goal, which is reaching greatness. That's what we're here for. Challenge ourselves to reach greatness, because it comes along with so many obstacles that make it hard for us to truly achieve greatness. So being wealthy is also a challenge, but it's a sweet challenge, as opposed to living in poverty, which is more of a bitter challenge. So we understand how sometimes we're looking at things as, oh, this is amazing, this is what I want. Whoa, that comes with challenges too. Everything is good if Hashem gave it to us. Everything, Hashem is the ultimate goodness, and He created this world to do good for us in it and for us to reach our greatest heights through that goodness. But we want our challenges to be sweet and not bitter. That would be the difference. Now, in this week's Parsha, and here's how we understand a little more of this, the Parsha that we just read yesterday, what was the Parsha? Anybody know? Ki Tavo. Now, this is a heavy Parsha, right? A heavy Parsha, because we read a lot of brachot and klalot, and we're seeing a lot of those today in our lives, okay? So it was a heavy Parsha to read, but here's where it's going to be encouraging. There are 676 words in the klalot. If you read all the klalot from beginning to end, 676 words. Those words are equivalent to the 26 times that Shem Hashem is mentioned in the klalot. Now, which is the name of Hashem that represents din, judgment and discipline? Anybody know? Elokim. Which is the name of Hashem that was written throughout all of the klalot? It was not Elokim. You would think it would be, because these are harsh, this is strict, this is tough. You would think it would have been the name of judgment, of Elokim. It was not. It was Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, which represents which midah of Hashem? Compassion, mercy, rachamim. Now here's the thing. 26 times we see the name of Hashem of compassion written throughout the klalot when He's telling us all the curses and all the negative things that could happen. What is the gematria, the numerical value of Yud Kei Vav Kei? 26. So if we multiply 26 of Hashem's name and 26 of the amount of times it's mentioned in the klalot, you know what number we get? 676. The exact amount of words in all the klalot, which shows us something very, very important and very powerful. That even though Hashem was telling us about this klalot and telling us all the things that He could bring upon the Jewish people, He still did it only because He truly, truly loves us and truly has mercy on us. Why did He do it? That we don't know. That we don't know, Hashem's ways. But we know that it came from love and compassion from Hashem to us. That we do know. So again, it's all good. Sometimes it's bitter, sometimes it's sweet. But it's all good. All of the things that Hashem decides. I mean, the way we could understand it really is like a parent and a child. Anybody here a parent? Okay, many of you are. Those of you who aren't, I'm sure you can use your imagination and understand. Is it easier for a parent to give their child gifts and hugs and kisses, or to punish them? What's easier? To give them gifts. We only want to give our children gifts, and we want to give them love and hugs and kisses all day. Of course we do. But do we sometimes need to give our child a consequence because we're committed to their health and we're committed to their success and to their happiness in life? and for them to grow up to be healthy human beings, adults? Of course we do. It's hard for us because we love them, but sometimes we have to, specifically because we love them, and specifically because we care about them. Hashem is committed to our greatness, so he will do whatever it takes for us to reach that greatness. Hashem believes in our greatness even more than we do, even more than us. We say this every morning. What's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning? First thing. Well, you check WhatsApp, but after that, right? After that, we say Modani. What are we saying in the words Modani? Modani lefanecha. We're thanking Hashem for another day, not just another day. We're thanking him for everything that comes in the day. And it's so important to start off the day with that understanding of gratitude. And if you think about it for a minute, you know, it's not just about the day. It's about all the things that I was regifted today. Another day is not enough. It's not only that. Because you can wake up in the morning, and are you guaranteed that you're going to have today all the things you had yesterday? Of course not. No. We're not guaranteed that we'll have our house, or our car, or our job, or our health, or our talents. Of course, nothing's a guarantee. But Hashem woke you up this morning. I assume, how many of you woke up this morning? Amazing. Of course. Not only did you wake up, but you were regifted all the things you had yesterday. You were regifted with your home and your job, or your husband's job, or, you know, hopefully, you know, children and health and whatever blessings you have. Your talents, you were regifted that again today, right? You opened your closet, all your clothing was there, way more than you need. It was all there. You opened the fridge, all the food was there, way more than we need, all the Shabbos leftovers. It was all there. That is number one. But then, and by the way, Moda'ani, it's, okay, we have Hebrew speakers here. What does that mean? I'm thankful, right? I'm thankful. But here's the thing. Grammatically, it's not so correct. Really, it would make more sense to say ani modah, or ani modeh for a woman, ani modah, ani modeh, right? Why? Right? It's a good question. Why are we saying modah? We wake up in the morning and we're reciting poetry. We become poets first thing in the morning. Grateful am I, right? Oh God above. Why are we saying it in that order? And I'll tell you why, I think. Could you imagine waking up in the morning and the very first word out of your mouth is ani, me. Today is all about me. Let me see who's going to serve me today. Let's see how the day will serve me. Right? How much different would our day be if the very first word is I, instead of our very first word being thankful, grateful? It's an incredible concept. But then we finish, and we're in the beginning of Moda'ani, we're saying, thank you, Hashem, for giving me another day, and for my talents, and for my strengths, and for my family, and my health, and all the things you give me. Rabba emunatecha. What does this mean?
Your faith is very great.
Your faith is great, and we kind of expect the ending to be, therefore, because you've given me all of this greatness, I believe in you, and I love you, and thank you, right? No. It's the opposite. Hashem, Rabba emunatecha. How great is your faith in me. In me. We're saying, Hashem, you gave me all of this, another day with all of my talents, because you believe in me. Because you believe that there's something big that I have to accomplish and something big that I have to become. And that's the way we start off the day, thinking, okay, who do I have to become today? Who am I going to be today? So I want to move on. Now we have that little bit of an understanding and that kind of a mindset shift to start off with. But here's the thing. Sometimes we're given answers that are the answers that we didn't expect, or the answers that we don't want. Sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes the answer is not yet. What are some other answers you've received when you've asked Hashem for things?
We'll see.
We'll see. Wait, not now.
It's not a time.
It's not the right time.
How do you know that's what Hashem is saying?
Well, that's what it seems to be, because sometimes maybe we get the thing, but we don't get it when we want it. Sometimes we get the thing, but we don't get it how we wanted it. Sometimes we get it in another way. A different door opens, a different window opens, and we're like, whoa, I didn't expect that. So sometimes we have an understanding of that the answer could mean many different things. But sometimes the answer is straight up, no. That is the answer sometimes. And when that happens, there's something important that we need to understand. A healthy relationship has to be able to accept the word no. If I'm in a relationship with someone and they tell me no about something I request, does that mean that our relationship just fell apart? Of course not, right? You see the strength of the relationship when there is a no sometimes. And by the way, this is in general a rule for life. Who here has a hard time saying no? Raise your hand. Don't be shy, don't be shy. Many of us, if we're givers, sometimes we have a hard time saying no. We always like to say yes, yes, yes. We do all the things and say all the yeses to everyone. Sometimes when you say no, your yeses become so much more of a yes when you say no. If everything's a yes, the yes becomes less meaningful, right? Because everything's always a yes. But if you, like, I know that if I want to ask someone a favor for something, I would much rather ask the people that sometimes tell me no if they can't do it, rather than the people who always say yes, and then sometimes there's like harboring resentment because they're always saying yes, but then they become a martyr. So sometimes you strengthen the relationship by saying no. And that means the relationship can't fall apart because of a no. It actually has to be strengthened. And when we receive a no, that's a moment of humility. That's the moment for us to stop for a minute. No, when we receive a no. We're going back to receiving a no from Hashem. If we perceive that Hashem's answer is no to something we've been asking for, that might be a moment where we enter into a state of humility, where we can stop for a moment and say, okay, Hashem, I understand. I thought this was what I needed in life, or I thought this was the person for me to spend my life with, or I thought this was, but I see that didn't happen, something else happened, so I guess it's not what was best for me. I thought it was what was best for me, but you know better, obviously. It's that moment of humility where we take a step back and say, oh, it's not that, oh, I didn't get what I wanted, it's that maybe I didn't really know what I wanted, and I thought I knew what I wanted, but I was wrong. So we see how that's a little bit of a mindset shift that can help us accept life and live life a little bit better. Understanding, oh, I was wrong. Okay, not you were wrong, I was wrong. So it takes a little bit of humility to be able to do that. Now let's get to the next question. The first question is, what is life? What's life purpose? How are we meant to live it? The next question is, why do we want the things we want? We have these requests from Hashem. I want this, I want that, which is fine. He's there for us to ask him for things. We're completely dependent on him for anything in life. Why do I want the things that I want? Am I asking for these things for me because I want a better life through them and I think they will give me a better life? Or am I asking for these things because I understand my purpose in life and I need these things in order to serve you better, Hashem? In order for me to reach the level of greatness that I want to reach so that I could fully live my purpose in life. Do we hear the difference in the request? Is it because I want it, because I want to have a better life, an easier life, a more comfortable life, a life more along the lines of the plan that I set for myself? Or do I want this because it's going to help me live my purpose a little bit better? This is a reframe for us to ask for the things we want. And that's what we come to Hashem with on Rosh Hashanah, right? We come to Hashem on Rosh Hashanah not asking him, again, let's have this reframe, not asking Hashem, well, I just want all the good things and I want to have a good life and I want to be rich and I want to go on vacation and I want to go here and I want to go there and do this and do that. It's because Hashem, these are the talents you gave me. These are the strengths you gave me. I want to use them to serve you. And in order for that to happen, I think I need some more resources. I think I need a little bit more of this bracha in my life so that I can serve you better. This is what we come on Rosh Hashanah, what we bring before Hashem with that question. So that's what we need to understand. We have to have clarity of purpose. The more we understand that everything that we do actually should be for a higher purpose, and the more we understand that we don't necessarily want this thing just for me to have an easier life. Remember what we said about the purpose of life. If we daven for something that's more purposeful, there's a greater chance that Hashem will say yes. Oh, yeah, like imagine anybody here work for a boss? Anyone here have a boss? Okay, so if you would ask your boss for a new computer, say, boss, I really need a new computer. He's going to ask you, or she'll ask you, why do you need a new computer? What are you going to say?
So I can work more efficiently.
Okay, so if you tell your boss, I need it to work more efficiently, right? And my emails are taking forever to come through. This is weak, that's weak, the keyboard's broken. I can't work efficiently. I need a new computer. What is your boss likely going to say? Yeah. Sure, I'll give. But if you tell your boss, I need a new computer because solitaire, it's just not working on the one I have, and like I can't be, chatting with the people on this computer. And what's he going to say? No. Is my request for me? Or is my request for you, Hashem? I need more. I'm asking for more, not for me, but for you, to serve you better, to reach my greater purpose. Now, here's question number 3. Bless you. Here's question number 3. What if, now listen carefully to this question and let me see if this is something that resonates with you as much as it resonates with me. What if I'm trying to serve Hashem and I need that thing to serve him better? I'm saying, Hashem, I need this for you because that will help me serve you better and help me reach my greater purpose. And he's not giving it to me. Has this happened to anyone here? I see a lot of heads nodding. Like, Hashem, I'm just trying to serve you. Why did you take this away from me? Now it's harder for me to serve you. Or why didn't you give me this? Because I'm just trying to serve you. And then it's harder for us to understand because we are, in fact, doing it for Hashem. And this is where I'm going to share a little bit of my own personal story. Okay, good.
My question is also like,
yes.
Hashem puts the desire in us of wanting something, and then he doesn't, you put it in me to want it.
Exactly.
Why not giving it to me?
So why are you not giving it to me?
Yeah.
Right? So these are all great questions. Let's see if we can understand it a little more as we go through. Okay? So here's the thing. I'm going to share a little bit about my own personal story over here. Each piece that I'm going to mention now could be an entire talk, entire class on all the things I experienced and all the things I learned from it. We obviously can't do that because we have a lot to cover. So I'm going to mention each piece just briefly, and if you ever want to hear these in more detail, you can speak to the Rebbitzin, you can speak to Ricky, maybe we can have a part 2 at some point, okay? So as I mentioned earlier, I grew up in New York, got married to my husband who was from Mexico. We moved to Eretz Yisrael. We lived in Yerushalayim for 7 years, and our 3 oldest children were born there. Now, when we moved there, that was very hard for me. I didn't realize it was going to be hard, right? I moved there fully idealistic. We're going to be this power couple living in Eretz Yisrael, learning in Kolal. I'm going to be the best Eishes Chayil that there ever was. And I developed what I call today, back then I didn't know what it was, but today I call it the Eishes Chayil syndrome, okay? Where feelings, my feelings didn't matter. I was there to serve my husband, okay? And no matter what I was going through, I didn't share them with him because he's my king learning in Kolal, and my feelings don't matter at all. This was a whole different topic, but this was very difficult for me because we moved away from my family. We moved away from my friends. We moved away from the life that I knew, and this was back in 1998. Long distance was expensive. There was no internet. I mean, there was dial-up. Anyone remember dial-up internet? You paid by the minute, and we didn't have internet in our home. Like, it wasn't a thing. No cell phones, no internet. Everything was long distance. I changed everything about my life. I changed all of my minhagim. I went from Ashkenaz to Sephardi, all right? Everything. And you hear sometimes, and I'm sure some of you have made big changes in your lives, and you can understand me, and sometimes it's even the small things that are the hardest. Right? I'm not even talking about major things like changing my food taste, okay? and menu, and even the little tiny things like I grew up saying Good Shabbos and now I'm saying Shabbat Shalom. Even that little thing. You know why? Because every single thing that I had to change was me changing my identity. It was me giving up everything that I knew, everything that was familiar to me, everything that defined me and who I was. And what?
So hard.
It's hard, right? It's not easy when we make these changes. And by the way, as I was dating my husband, this was a little bit of an issue that I had because I knew intellectually that this was definitely the man that I was looking for. I dated quite a few different young men from the New York area, and my husband was my 30th person that I dated. This is the shidduch world, you know what I mean? So that was a lot. But the reason for that was all the guys I dated were wonderful, nice, good people, most of them. But I I was looking for somebody a little bit different. I was looking for somebody who was a leader, a visionary, somebody out of the box, somebody who wanted to make a difference in the Jewish nation. And most of the guys that I dated didn't seem to fit into that category. So I actually had a little conversation with Hashem while I was dating, and I said, all right, Hashem, I'm tired. Like, I'm just tired. Every week it's another guy, and I gave them each like 4 or 5 dates. I didn't just say no after the first. I was tired, and I said, I just need to like rejuvenate a little bit. So I said, Hashem, listen, I appreciate that you're sending me all these names. I understand that's a big deal, and I'm so thankful for that. So thank you. But I don't need it for my self-esteem. Like, I'm good. I'm okay. You can stop sending me all these people who are irrelevant to me right now and just send me the one who's supposed to be mine. Like, that's it. Like, really, I'm okay. Guess what? The phone calls stopped coming. Okay? I was like, thank you. And I was able to like rejuvenate a little bit. And my parents were worried. They were like, why is nobody calling? I was like, don't worry, we got this. Like, we got a thing. We're good, okay? And then all of a sudden, 2 months later is when I get the phone call from my friend about my husband. She was a friend of his. My husband was learning in Eretz Yisrael, and he was visiting New York, where I was living, for 2 weeks. He was visiting right before Pesach. He went to do some shopping, He bought a wife. He went to do some of his little shopping. And he ended up in my friend's house because he was friends with her brother. My friend calls me. She's like, Yaffa, your husband's on my couch. I was like, well, why is he on your couch? Send him over. Okay? And it was a whole big thing because he had a whole list of girls he was dating, and he put my name on the bottom of the list. He didn't realize then, but I told him later. I'm like, no, you don't understand. 2 different people, by the way. 2 people on that trip who just met him for the first time suggested me to him. And he's not into any kind of weird stuff. So he was like, that's a big deal. Okay, but I have a bunch of people before her. So 2 people said her name. Big deal. I'll put her on the bottom of my list. You know what I mean? Again, as I mentioned, on paper, we didn't have that much in common. And later on, I told him, I was like, no, you don't understand. There's literally, in Brooklyn, New York, there's like 10,000 girls my age. The fact that 2 people told you my name in like 3 days is a sign and is a big deal. So now he knows, okay? But what happened was, so I finally said, okay, great, I'll go out with him. I told you before, my friend wasn't sure his name, whatever, and it had to be that night. She's like, could you go out with my friend's brother tonight? I was like, whoa, what can you tell me about him? She goes, I don't know that much. I know he's an amazing guy. My brother loves him. He's from Mexico. He's Sephardi. That's all I know. Not sure his name, but he needs to know because he has an opening tonight in like 2 hours. So I called my mother at work by the time I reached her, and I went out without knowing his name, okay? And right away I saw, oh, this guy's different. This is what I'm looking for. Now, all through our dating, I knew intellectually that this is exactly the guy I'm looking for. But I had a very hard time connecting emotionally. And I didn't realize why. And I finally figured out that I was so afraid to allow myself to connect emotionally because I knew that I was going to have so many changes that I have to make in my life. Was I ready for this? I was 21. Was I ready to never live in New York again? And I thought I was never going to end up in the U.S. again. But hi, here I am. But I really thought I was never going to live in the U.S. because what was there here for him? There was nothing here for him. He was going to do Kirov with Latins, and we were going to live in Israel, maybe when they end up in Mexico. Like, there was nothing for him anywhere else. And so I had a hard time. I was going to change all my minhagim, learn a new language. Like, there was so many things. Was I ready for that? So I had a hard time. And in the end I did, because in the end I had this conversation with myself where I said, Yaffa, literally, like, this is what you asked Hashem for. Okay? You asked him to stop sending you other guys, and he did. He said, okay, fine. You asked him, just send me the one that's for me. And he did. And by the way, the only reason I ended up getting engaged to him was because I asked Hashem to send me simanim, which are signs. I said, Hashem, I need simanim. And he sent me the craziest signs that were so obvious. I was like, okay, I get it, fine, I'll marry him, right? Every single thing I asked Hashem for was a yes. And now here I am saying, I'm going to have to make a change in my life. I'm going to have to get out of my comfort zone a little bit. Nah, I don't know if I want this. And I was like, Yaffa, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? So you're telling Hashem, it's almost like I'm slapping Hashem in the face, and I'm saying, I don't care that you gave me everything I want. I want more. I want all of that, and I want to be comfortable. And that's when Hashem said to me, you make a choice. You can marry any of those 29 other guys that are going to live in New York, and they'll be nice, good men. You'll have a good life. You'll be comfortable in your comfort zone. Or you can marry the person that you know you're going to reach greatness with, but you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone to do that. And that's when I accepted. That's when I said this was going to be the first of many more that I didn't realize at the time, the first of many more moments where I had to choose what was right over what was easy. And we all have circumstances like that, where we have to choose what's right over what's easy, what's right over what's fun, what's right over what's fast, what's right over what's comfortable. And we have to make that choice. And we know it's going to be the less comfortable choice. But that's what I did. So we got married, moved to Eretz Israel. It was this time of year, because this week is my anniversary. Now, I wasn't expecting to have all of that emotional turmoil when I moved. Okay, again, as I mentioned, there were so many things I had to change. But in addition to that, I was the first one in my family to leave. I'm the oldest. I have a large family. I was the first one to get married. My father was sick, unfortunately. He has since passed away, but at the time he was very sick with multiple sclerosis, and his body was deteriorating, and I was leaving him. I was leaving my mother, who worked full-time to take care of, okay, this is a whole other story, but I have 10 biological siblings and about 8 foster siblings also. My parents took in a lot of kids from abused homes to live with us. There were many throughout the year, but at that time there were about 8. Throughout the years, there were many more. I was leaving everyone and everything, leaving my mother alone, leaving my younger siblings, leaving my friends, leaving my busy, busy life, and it wasn't easy. And we get there, and I fell into this delicate emotional state. And it was hard for me. And then adjusting, Baruch Hashem, it was a bracha, but it was also difficult. A bracha and a challenge that I was expecting right away. So I'm newly pregnant, adjusting to a new body, adjusting to a new marriage, which is always an adjustment for everyone. But adding to that, all of the change in customs and the difference in cultures and moving to a new country where I knew no one. Okay? It wasn't easy. And then, to top everything, and I was bored, super bored. I had no one to talk to, nothing to do. All day, I was used to being so busy, dusk, dawn to dusk, like just busy, busy, busy. And it was very difficult. Now, on top of all of that, by the way, I called, and it was, again, long distance was expensive. But one day I called home, and my younger sister answered. When I got married, my youngest sister was 5. I still had little kids at home. My 7-year-old sister picks up the phone, and she says, Yaffa, I just want you to know that we took you out of the family song. Yes, we have a family song, okay? We took you out of the family song. That was like, now, why did you, right, you're like, Mazeh, why? You know why? Because they were angry that I left them. They were hurt. I didn't realize at the time, because I was so busy being hurt. So I didn't realize what they were going through, that I left them, right? Now, the first thing I thought was, what? It doesn't even make sense. The tune doesn't even fit in with all the names if you take my name out. Like, that's stupid. Why'd you do that? And then I was really hurt. It made me really sad, right? That's all I needed. And don't worry, she apologized later on. It's all good. But part of the problem is I didn't even discuss any of the way I was feeling with my husband, because I was busy being the perfect Eshes Chayil, who doesn't have feelings and emotions, and everything is always great, okay? And I'm always smiling and happy and always there to serve, right? So that made things even harder. And I didn't want to share all of the things I was experiencing with my mother, because my mother was going through so much as it was with her sick husband and taking care of a million people and everything. And I was like the only child who was giving her any nachas. So she's going through all her things with my teenage siblings, and there I was, married to a Talmud Chacham and living in Eretz Yisrael, living the dream. I'm not going to share. Does that make sense, right? So I was holding everything, and it got really difficult. And because what happened was, what are all the things I didn't share? It wasn't just the loneliness and all of everything that came along with that. The Intifada started right then, where the buses were blowing up, and restaurants were blowing up, and suicide bombers everywhere, and car rammings, and it was just craziness. So there I was, all alone on the other side of the world, and all of this was going on, and it was very, very difficult. And I developed something that I didn't have language for back then. Okay, this was 26 years ago. I didn't understand it. I never heard of it. There was no words to talk about it. But I fell into a state of depression, anxiety. I developed agoraphobia. Do we know what agoraphobia is? Agoraphobia is when you are afraid of, they're all irrational phobias, okay? When you're afraid of public places and open spaces. Okay, now I am the queen extrovert. I am super social. but I had no one to talk to. And I didn't know anyone. I had nowhere to be. And by the way, we were living in an area where there were no young American couples. Why were we living there, you ask? Good question. Because I was the perfect Eshes Chayil, and it was right down the street of his kollel. Okay? And I never thought of mentioning the fact that I might be a little happier if we find a neighborhood where there are other people I can talk to.
Do you remember the
And
street name?
it was in Harnof. Yeah, it was in Harnof. There were a lot of Americans, but they were much older than me. I was 21, 22. They were like 40 with the whole family. Yeah, remember those with all the fanny packs and the long big skirts, right? So they were like, it was much different. Like now, I'm friends with people 15 years older than me and younger than me. But back then, like I was 21, 22. I needed people in my age range, right? And none of them even lived near me. I lived in a super Israeli building, and it was just, not ideal. But things were really, really hard, okay? By the way, later on, after I realized what an Eshes Chayil actually is, and that I was not living an ideal married life at all by not sharing myself with my husband, okay, that's a whole different topic that I talk about in my marriage classes. Later on, I did end up telling him how hard things were for me. At the time, I didn't, how hard it was for me. And the first thing he said to me was, I wish you would have told me, because we would have been on the next plane back to New York so you can live a little bit closer to your family. Or we would have lived in an area that you would have been happy in. And like, I literally tear up every time I think about that, because I went through so much, and part of it was my own fault. It was hard. But what happened at the time was, I shared a little bit with my husband because he was starting to pick up on certain things. I had this anxiety and this depression that I tried to cover up, but it was really difficult. And it was so against my nature. I didn't understand it. I couldn't identify. I didn't know what it was. And finally, my husband said to me one day, he said, did you ever learn emunah and bitachon? Did you ever learn, really delve into the idea of trusting Hashem and, believing and trusting? I said, me? Emunah bitachon? Come on. I woke up like this. You know what I mean? I keep Shabbat, I do all the mitzvot. What do you mean? Of course I believe in Hashem. He says, yeah, I know. That's why I married you, okay? I know that. But did you ever learn emunah and bitachon? I said, I don't think I did. I don't think I ever did. So he said, let's learn it together. I went and I bought a book on emunah and bitachon. And we started learning emunah and bitachon together. And it hit me. I suddenly realized, yes, of course I believe in Hashem. But I don't have a relationship with him. I don't look to Hashem as my father, as somebody who's carrying me every step of the way. I don't look to him like that. And if you don't look to Hashem as your father, you don't feel him carrying you in his arms. David HaMelech explains to us in Tehillim, what does it mean to have true emunah and bitachon? Kagamul alei imo. It is like an infant in the arms of his mother. Right? What does this mean? Have you ever been on a plane where there was crazy turbulence? Like the scary type that dips up and down? I have. Scariest flight ever. Sometimes you have everybody screaming. They're scared. They're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen, right? I was petrified. Who's the only person on the plane who's not afraid? A baby. Well, maybe the pilot, right? Because the pilot knows that everything's okay. He knows. But the only other person on the plane who's not the pilot that's not only not afraid, but super happy is a baby. Because the baby thinks it's a roller coaster. Whee! Right? The baby's thrilled. Why? Because the baby's in his mother's arms or his father's arms. That's all he knows. If a mother takes a baby and flies all over the world, right? They were on that plane, and then they go to the supermarket, then they go to a wedding, then they go to a concert. They have a busy day. At the end of the day, you say to the baby, hey baby, where were you today? What's the baby going to say? In my mother's arms. Baby didn't know where they were, couldn't care less where they were. That's emunah and bitachon. When we look to Hashem as our Father, and that means whatever's going on throughout the day, right? I know I'm in my Father's arms. I know he's carrying me. I know he's holding me. And that changed everything for me. Everything. I was able to get out of my anxiety. I was able to get out of my depression. I was able to start living my life again. And then we ended up staying in Israel 7 years. I had 3 kids there. And it was an amazing thing. And then we picked up and moved to Mexico. I was finally living my life, right? And I was finally, enjoying. I was teaching in a million different seminaries. And I was using all my talents and strengths and everything. I was literally living it up, loving it, every minute of living there. And then we picked up and we left. Now, I'm going to share with you a little bit of my story in Mexico. How much more time do we have? Oh, it's getting late. Okay, do I have a few more minutes to share a little bit of my story? Are we okay? Nobody's sleeping yet? We're good? Okay. So we end up moving to Mexico. 7 years in Israel, and we decided it was time to move there. Remember, my husband is from Mexico. He comes from a completely secular community. The reason we went was every year when we were living in Israel, he actually went back to Mexico from the day after Rosh Hashanah until Erev Sukkot. So he was there for the 10 days of Teshuvah, Seret Yemei Teshuvah, and Yom Kippur. And what he did was he would spend those 10 days learning with all the men in the community, whoever wanted to learn, all the young guys, the college students and young family men, some of the women too. Whoever wanted to learn, he would study with them. And then on Yom Kippur, he opened up a second minyan in his community. His father, by the way, was the rabbi of the community. And he went to kind of be his assistant. But on Yom Kippur is when everybody comes out of the woodwork, like, oh, hey, I'm Jewish, right? So they all show up to synagogue, even though the whole year they don't come. So he needed to make a second minyan. You know how big the second minyan was? 1,200 people. Okay? So he used to go back every year to make a second minyan, 1,200 people on Yom Kippur, and he spent time learning with them. So over the years, they kept asking. As you know, after 5-6 years of him going, they started saying, why don't you come live here full time? Like, we're loving this, but we only get it once a year. I think we're ready to start learning and to start growing a little bit. So as soon as they said that and they requested that we come, we realized that our path in life has to shift a little now. And as much as we love living in Eretz Yisrael, because there's nothing like it, that we realized in that moment that our Ahavat Am Yisrael has to be stronger than our Ahavat Eretz Yisrael, and we have to leave and we have to help our Jewish brothers and sisters in Mexico. Now, I was super idealistic. I'm 27 years old. Mexico, this is so cool. I love tacos. Let's go. And we hop on the plane and we move to Mexico. And a lot more than just tacos awaited me there. It was a very, very hard move. And again, I wish I had time to go into it in detail, and I don't. And I'm so sorry that I don't. One day I'll be happy to share my whole story with you. But just in a nutshell, nobody spoke English. I didn't speak Spanish. So already we see a problem. By the way, they speak Spanish in Mexico. Most people say, do they speak Mexican? No, they speak Spanish, okay? And that was hard. Again, remember, Miss Extrovert over here, social butterfly. I had no one to talk to, nobody. No, it was impossible. Again, we lived in a neighborhood where I was the only one in a skirt. Well, there were some skirts, but they revealed a lot, okay? I was the only one who covered my hair, the only family who kept Shabbat. It was not an easy move for us. And I left all of my boxes. Slowly but surely, I was leaving all the boxes that I grew up in and hoping I would replace them with other boxes, but I really didn't. I left all the little boxes, the boxes that I grew up in. We all have boxes we grew up in because that's just how we were conditioned. That's our lives, right? So I grew up in a little box of American, Ashkenaz, English-speaking, those are some of the boxes I grew up in. I moved to Mexico now. No longer in the American box, but I'm still not fitting into the Mexican box. No longer the Ashkenazi box, still not fitting into the Sephardi box. No longer in the Frum box, not fitting into the secular box. No longer in the English-speaking box, still not fitting into the Spanish-speaking box. So I lost my whole identity. Who was I? And not only that, but all of my talents have to do with the English language. I was using all of them in Israel, teaching in all the seminaries. I was an educator. Just a few of the other things I like to do. I'm very musical. I'm a songwriter and singer, so I was doing production. I could write plays and manage the acting. Those were all my talents that I used to always do. In Israel, I did that for all the seminaries. I was involved. I was using all my talents. I moved to Mexico, and who am I? Who am I? And in Israel, my husband was Yaffa Palti's husband. Now we moved to Mexico, and I am Rabbi Palti's wife, right? So who am I? And I would prepare, and I was the Rebbitzin of the community. So I went to shul every Shabbat. I went to shul, and I had to smile a lot, which I did happily. Right? You understand the Rebbitzin's job, right? We smile, and we want to talk to people, but I couldn't really talk to anyone. I couldn't have conversations with them. And I went to every event. We had 1 million events a week, and I went to every event, and I would sit at the table, and just couldn't talk to anyone. And this was really difficult for me, really difficult. Every Shabbat, we invited people over, and I would prepare and cook and serve, and then sit down at the Shabbat table, and I didn't understand a word that was going on at my own Shabbat table.
So hard.
It was very hard, right? So once again, I'm in this place of, who am I? Where am I? What's going on here? And this was the moment where I started having this prayer. And I started looking to God and I said, Hashem, I don't know what you want from me, really, because I'm trying to serve you. I'm trying to serve you. Remember our question? What if I'm trying to serve Hashem with all these things and I'm not getting the things I need to serve him? I said, Hashem, I'm trying to serve you the best I can. I tried in Israel, and it was so hard in the beginning, and then finally I found my place. I'm trying to serve you over here, and I can't use any of my talents. Why'd you give me these talents if I can't use them? Why'd you put me in a place where I can't use my talents? I'm trying to connect with people I can't connect. I'm trying to teach your Torah. There's no one to receive what I have to give. It was very hard. And that was my prayer. That was my plea. That was my complaint. And I said to myself at a certain point, and by the way, I got very angry at Spanish. Anyone here speak Spanish? Okay, some of you speak Spanish. Okay. So I actually got angry at Spanish. I know it sounds crazy because that's a language. Like, what does a language do to me? But Spanish ruined my life. And I was like, what is this stupid language that everyone's talking near me? And that, of course, transferred over into the people who spoke Spanish. I started developing a little resentment, which is not a good look for a Rebbitzin, is it? I was like, I have to love these people, and I'm having a hard time loving them because I'm resenting them because they speak Spanish, and I don't know what's happening, and I don't know what's going on. And I have so many stories that today are hilarious, but then were super embarrassing. I can't even get into them just because of time. But it was hard. It was very, very hard. And at a certain point, this became, I said to myself, in Israel, it lasted about 3 years that I was really living in that rut. And then everything got so much better. So I said, okay, you know what? Maybe it takes 3 years. I'll give myself 3 years. So I had 3 years in Mexico of really just living again in this like delicate emotional state where it was very hard for me, but I tried. I really smiled and I tried my best. On the outside, no one knew what I was experiencing internally. And when 3 years passed and it wasn't any better, that's when I got really scared. And I was like, is this my life? Like, this is where I'm just going to be in Mexico the rest of my life and be disconnected from everyone and anyone? And by the way, this was before social media. So it's not even like I could have an outlet on Facebook or Instagram. This was way before that. But one day, and I'll tell you, I'm sharing this story because I'm gonna share with you what changed my mindset shift and how I applied that to myself and how I still apply it to myself today, and it changed my whole life. I received an email one day. We did have email. And one day I got an email, but I didn't use it often. And this was an email that I got from a friend of mine back in Israel, and I was so excited to see her name there. And it wasn't even an email just to me. It was a group email to like 100 people. But still, I was excited. But I read the email, and the email said, a certain friend of ours, somebody that we knew, unfortunately was sick. And it was an invitation to join what's called a Ta'anit Dibor. Anybody know what that is? A Ta'anit Dibor, which is a day without any speaking, only the words of Torah or Tefillah, you can say, but any just kind of idle talk, nothing, no other words. In the zechut, in the merit for this person to have a refuah shalema. So you read that email, you're like, oh, that's sweet, right? That wasn't my reaction. I read that email and I started crying. I was like, don't talk to anyone all day. I haven't spoken to anyone in 3 months. Not one person. Okay, this woman should have a complete recovery by now, okay? And it made me very sad. But then I stopped for a minute and I was like, oh my goodness, email. I could use email to connect with people. It gave me this idea. Now I'm going to tell you the idea that I thought of. Today, it sounds like, okay, yay, amazing. Back then, I didn't know anyone who did this yet. So this was like a brand new initiative in my mind. I didn't know about it yet. I decided that I was going to send out a weekly Parsha email to all of my friends, to everyone I know, everyone I've ever met in my entire life is going to get that Parsha email from me because I have this crazy need to teach Torah and to connect with people. It's a great idea. So that week I started. So that's it, I'm doing this. You know what that week was? Parshat Lech Lecha. You see where I'm going, right? And it was unbelievable. I read the Parsha beginning to end. And I read the story of Abraham. And immediately I connected with him. I resonated so deeply. Avram was told, go leave your past behind, leave your family, leave your friends, leave your culture, leave your language, leave your food, leave everything you knew, and move to an unknown future. And I was like, oh, Avram, I feel you. That must have been so hard. And it was very validating to read that parsha. And then I get to the end of that parsha, and I realized that there was something there that I never saw before. At the time, I was like 30 years old. I've been learning the parsha for 25 years at least? And there was something that I never saw before until that moment. I noticed that the words Lech Lecha were written twice. They were written in the beginning of the parsha, which we know about when Avram was told to leave everything behind. And they were also written at the end of the parsha when Avram was instructed to bring his son Yitzchak to the Akedah, to the altar. The words Lech Lecha were used. So I said there has to be a correlation between these two words, the same terminology, right, used twice. And that's when it hit me. I said, oh my goodness. The first time Avram Avinu was told to leave his past behind, leave everything you ever knew and move to the future. Avram said, okay, Hashem, I'll do that. And he moved to the future, and he had a whole future plan for himself. I was going to have a child, and he was going to be the future of the Jewish nation. That's what he was promised. And those were the plans that he made for his future. And now Hashem threw him a curveball and said, wait, not so soon. Now you're going to kill your future plans. You're not going anywhere. And that's what Avram accepted. He said, okay, now Hashem told me to leave my future behind. First it was the past, now it was the future. And that's when I said, oh my gosh, is that what you're telling me, Hashem? Am I supposed to learn from Avram Avinu? First he told me to leave my past behind, and I did. I left everything I was comfortable with. I left everything I knew, all the people, all my talents, my identity. I left everything behind. And now I was trying to take all of that with me into the future so I can serve you the way I know how to serve you. Right? The way I always served you. Everything you gave me, I want to use that to serve you. But now you took that all away from me. And that's when I realized, I said, that's what Hashem was telling me. Hashem said, okay, Yaffa, I saw how you served me when you were comfortable, in your comfort zone, when you were popular, when you had friends, when you spoke English, when you were able to use all your talent. I saw how you served me. Okay. Now, I want to see you serve me when I take all of that away from you. And that's when I stood up and I put my hands on my hips. And I said, really, Hashem? Game on. Game on. I'm here for it. This is what I'm supposed to do. It was in that moment that I realized what Hashem wants from me. Because I was trying to serve Hashem on my terms, the way I wanted to serve him. And Hashem was trying to teach me, no, you have to serve me on my terms, in the way I want you to serve me. And maybe that has nothing to do with the talents you think you have, or maybe that has nothing to do with the way you used them previously. And I realized Hashem wants me to learn Spanish. That's it. He wants me to just bring my other foot in. I was living like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And I took my foot, I brought it all the way in. And I said, okay, I'm ready. I'm going to start learning Spanish, and I'm going to start serving Hashem in the way he wants me to serve him. And that was a game changer for me, because the next morning I woke up. And how did I make that shift? I made that shift by creating a game for myself. And I'm going to share that game with you right now so that you could play it also. This is a game that I call Truth or Dare. You're like, hey, I know that game. I played it at my 7th grade sleepovers, right? Not that one. It's a different Truth or Dare. And I'm going to tell you what Truth or Dare is. You see, we have the capacity and the ability to hold multiple, diverse, and opposing emotions simultaneously. Am I right? Yes. Have any of you ever laughed and cried at the same time? Yes. We have. Okay, we can. We stand under the chuppah. It's the most joyous moment ever, full of jubilation, ecstasy even. And what do we do in the middle of all that joy? Break a cup. Guys, stop. Got to remember the chorba now. Get sad for a minute. Okay, we got sad. Now you be happy again. Right? This is who we are. We could do that. We have that ability to carry multiple emotions, and sometimes they're actually opposing emotions. Now, here's what I realized. I realized that what I was trying to do was, I was trying to get rid of all my negative emotions so that I could replace them with positive emotions, but I wasn't able to replace them with positive emotions because I was so overwhelmed by the negative emotions. And I was living in that overwhelm. I was living my life as a victim. Why, Hashem? Why? And even though I was trying to do good things, it was still all the why. Why me? Why me? In that moment is when I realized the goal is not to get rid of the negative emotions. The goal is not to get rid of the sadness or the loneliness. The goal is to learn how to hold both emotions together and decide which of those emotions are going to be the compass by which I navigate my life. So I said, okay, truth or dare? The truth is, I feel very sad. I do, and I have to acknowledge that. But I dare myself to go be happy anyway. I dare myself to go do it. The truth is, I feel lonely. But I dare myself to go be loved anyway, and to go love others anyway, make connections anyway. The truth is, I feel scared. But I dare myself to go be brave anyway. This is truth or dare. And you could insert any emotion that you're experiencing, any fear that you have. Insert it right here. We could say the truth is I'm frustrating, but I dare myself to be kind anyway, even though I'm frustrated. I could be heartbroken. You could be heartbroken from something that happened in life. And you could say, the truth is I'm heartbroken, but I dare myself to go love anyway, to go love again. You could feel unqualified for something, and you could say, the truth is I feel unqualified, but I dare myself to go apply for that position anyway. It's a game of truth or dare. The truth is, this is what I'm experiencing, and that's okay. I could dare myself to experience something else also, and they can live happily together, because then I have the choice. Which of these emotions are going to be the compass by which I navigate my life? And that's when I realized that when I think I'm supposed to be somewhere, and I'm not in that place, it could be very frustrating for me. I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do that, but this is supposed to happen, but I wanted this, but I expected that. But this is where Hashem put me, right? I had all my plan A lined up, plan A, and then I'm living a plan B, C, D, we got all the way to Z. That's how many different plans our lives could have taken. And if we spend our lives thinking, well, this is not my plan A, right? I'm living my plan B life, then how could we possibly be living life? We're frustrated, we're resentful, we live a life that's bitter, that's hard, that's difficult. But I want to tell you something, and I want you to internalize this, and if there's anything you learned from tonight, it should be this. The life that you're living, everything that you have in your life, exactly where you are, physically, where you're living, where you are in terms of your health, emotionally, financially, psychologically, wherever you are in life, that's exactly where you're meant to be. It's exactly where you're meant to be. And it's from that place that Hashem wants you to serve Him. And I learned this from my father. I don't have time to get into the whole story now, but my father, whose yard site is coming up next week, my father had tremendous pain. He suffered so much his entire life, but he never once stopped smiling. He had this radiant smile that lit up the room, even though he was in pain, and he acknowledged his pain. And everybody who came to visit him left saying, why was I more inspired by him than he was by me? And my father had somebody coming into his room every morning. He was paralyzed, completely paralyzed at the end of his life in his bed. And every morning he would listen on his headphones to a recording of one of my brothers who recorded tefillah for him, the whole tefillah. And he had somebody, either a brother or a health aide, a home aide, would put his tefillin on for him every morning. And he would just lie in his bed. My father easily could have said, oh, why am I praying every day? I will pray when I get better, when I could stand up and say the words. Why am I smiling and being happy to see people? And I'll do that when I feel better. He could have said any of that, but he didn't. He lived his life with so much simcha and so much inspiration, because there was no when I get better. He never got better. What I learned from my father was, there's a verse, and we're going to end with this, okay? There's a verse in Shemot when Moshe Rabbeinu was standing next to the burning bush, There's a verse over there in the Torah that tells us, Hamakom asher ata omed alav admat kodeshu. This place that you're standing, Moshe, Hashem told Moshe, this place that you're standing, it's a very, very holy place. Take off your shoes, respect the place. And that's what I learned from my father. Hamakom asher ata omed alav admat kodeshu. The place on which you're standing right now, physically, emotionally, mentally, financially, wherever you are right now, that is your holy place. And it's from that place that Hashem wants you to serve Him. It's not, oh, when I feel better, I'll be nicer to people. When I have more money, I'll give to that guy. When this, that. There is no when I. Because where you are right now is your holy place. And Hashem put you there on purpose because He wants you to serve Him on His terms, not on your terms. This is exactly where we're meant to be. So let's remember that. Our tefillah, of course, Hashem is there for us to pray for anything we want to pray for, of course. But it's also there for us to remember, every challenge we have in life is for us to remember, this is why we're in this world. It's to challenge us so that we can grow. We can see how strong we are. We can see what we're made out of. We can reach our greatest selves, because there is no greater pleasure in life than living life with a purpose, than living life with meaning, than elevating every single day from mundane to greatness. Everything we have, that's what we're here for, and that is what truly gives us the greatest pleasure. And we can only do that by recognizing that where I am is exactly where I'm meant to be. And we have to stop fighting the life that we don't want. Stop fighting it and just accept it and say, okay, Hashem, I'm here for you. I'm here. I'm here to serve you on your terms, not on mine. And this doesn't mean, of course, that we can't always pray for something more and something better. Of course we can. But it has to also come with the understanding that Hashem is carrying me in His arms and He is taking care of me. And I know that every answer He's giving me is the answer that is in my best interest, because Hashem loves me like nobody else does. And I want you to realize, recently I took a DNA test. Turns out I am 100% a child of God. And so are you, every single one of you. So I dare you to believe it. Sometimes emunah is a dare. Sometimes it's a dare to have emunah and bitachon. Sometimes we can stand and say, the truth is, this is difficult in my life. This is challenging. This is painful. That's the truth. I dare myself to trust Hashem anyway. Thank you so much.